I woke up to the feeling of a cold wooden ruler poking my arm, and the voice of a man who could end my life with a single phone call. I was asleep in Lucas Reed's executive chair, a mistake that should have just gotten me fired. But when I reached out to stop him, something impossible happened. A surge of electricity shot between us, frying his $50 million biometric hardware key and locking him out of his own empire. In that 1 second, I didn't just break a phone, I became the only person on Earth who could unlock his secrets. My mother was dying in a hospital 3 miles away, and I needed $140,000 by sunrise to save her. I was a cleaner with nothing to my name, but now, the most powerful man in Chicago was looking at me like I was his most prized and hated possession. He paid my mother's $300,000 medical bill in full, but the price wasn't money. It was a 2-year contract that required me to live in his penthouse, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. He calls it a debt. I call it a golden cage. And the reason he wants me there? It's not just about the cleaning. What is Lucas Reed about to do with that ruler? And how did a cleaning lady end up asleep in the office of a billionaire who controls everything and everyone around him? This story will take you on a journey you won't forget. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications because what happens next is going to shock you to your core. Now, let's go back to where this whole nightmare began. 3 days earlier. The smell of disinfectant burned Evelyn's nose as she sat beside Victoria Sloan's hospital bed. The rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor was the only sound in the sterile room. Victoria was unconscious, had been for 2 days now, her body too weak to fight the cancer that was eating it from the inside out. A doctor in blue scrubs entered quietly. "Miss Hart?" "Yes, how is she?" Dr. Thomas Grant's expression was kind but serious. "Her condition is deteriorating. The experimental treatment is working, but slowly. We need to perform the surgery to remove the primary tumor now, or we risk losing the window of opportunity we've created." "When? How soon?" "Within the week. But," Dr. Grant hesitated, "there's the issue of the outstanding balance. The hospital requires at least half the total cost up front before they'll schedule the surgery." "Half?" Evelyn's stomach dropped. "How much is half?" "At least $140,000. $140,000? Evelyn felt the room tilt. She made $12 an hour at the diner, $15 at the cleaning company. Even working 80 hours a week, she'd be lucky to clear $2,000 a month after rent and bills. "I don't have that kind of money," Evelyn whispered, the words barely audible. "I understand, but without the surgery—" "I'm sorry, Miss Hart. We need to see some progress on the payment plan by the end of the week." Dr. Grant left, and Evelyn sank back into her chair, the weight of $140,000 crushing her chest. Evelyn's best friend, Nina, found her 20 minutes later in the hospital chapel, which was empty except for Evelyn and an elderly woman praying in Spanish in the front row. "There you are." Nina slid into the pew beside Evelyn, balancing 2 cups of terrible hospital coffee. "Nurse Deborah said you looked like you were about to pass out. What happened?" $140,000. "What? That's what I need. Half of Mama's bills to get her the surgery by the end of the week. I make maybe $2,000 a month. You do the math." Nina let out a low whistle. "Jesus, I don't think even he has that kind of money to spare right now." Despite everything, Evelyn cracked a small smile at that. "Girl, you better not let Sister Petty hear you talking like that. She'll have the whole church praying over you for blasphemy." Evelyn almost laughed, but it came out as a sob instead. Nina immediately wrapped her arms around her, and Evelyn let herself break down properly. The ugly kind of crying where you can't breathe and your nose runs and you sound like a wounded animal. "I can't lose her," Nina said, gasping between sobs. "She's all I got. If Mama dies—" "Your mama is not going to die," Nina said firmly. "Victoria Sloan is the strongest woman I know. She survived growing up in the rough parts of the city. She survived raising you by yourself after your daddy left. She survived working 2 jobs for 20 years. She's going to survive this too. But not if I can't pay for her surgery. Then we figure out how to pay for it. Nina pulled back and looked Evelyn dead in the eye. How many jobs you working right now? 3. Morning shift at the diner, afternoon cleaning offices downtown, overnight cleaning at the airport. That's not enough. You need more. Evelyn let out a bitter laugh. More, Nina? I already sleep like 4 hours a day. When exactly am I supposed to fit in another job? I don't know, but you're going to have to figure it out. Nina wasn't being cruel. She was being real, which is what Evelyn needed. Look, my cousin Vanessa works for this fancy cleaning company that services all the high-rise buildings in the Loop, Whitmore Services or something. They pay better than what you're making now, and they're always hiring because the work is hard and most people quit. How much better? $25 an hour plus overtime. And girl, there's always overtime. These rich folks want their offices cleaned at weird hours, so you end up working double shifts all the time. Evelyn's mind was already calculating. $25 an hour, overtime rates. If she could get 40 hours a week there, plus keep the diner job. Can you text me Vanessa's number? Already doing it. Nina pulled out her phone. But Evelyn, I'm serious about what I said. You need to take care of yourself, too. Promise me you'll at least eat 1 real meal a day and take your vitamins. Deal. Deal. They shook on it like they were 10 years old again, making pinky promises about sharing snacks and keeping secrets. Back when the biggest problem in Evelyn's life was whether she'd get new shoes before school started. Now she was staring down a $140,000 debt and her mama's potential death sentence. Whatever it takes, Evelyn repeated to herself as she headed upstairs to visit her mama before her diner shift started. Whatever it takes.
3 weeks later, Evelyn started working for Whitmore Cleaning Services. The orientation was held in a dingy office building that smelt like mildew and desperation. Evelyn sat in a folding chair between a woman who kept coughing without covering her mouth and a teenage boy who couldn't have been more than 16, probably lying about his age to get work. At the front of the room, a heavy-set man in his 50s with sweat stains under his arms gestured at a PowerPoint presentation that looked like it was made in 1997. Whitmore Services provides premium cleaning for Chicago's elite business community, he droned. Our clients expect excellence. They expect discretion. They expect invisibility. The coughing woman raised her hand. What's that mean, invisibility? It means you do your job without being noticed. You clean after hours, you don't touch anything personal, you don't snoop, you don't steal, you don't exist to them, except as the reason their office is spotless when they arrive in the morning. Understand? Everyone nodded. Good. Now let's talk about our most important client. Mr. Whitmore clicked to the next slide and a massive skyscraper appeared on the screen. The Reed Building. 68 floors of office space, luxury condos, and retail. We service the entire building, but floors 60 through 68 are special. Why? Someone asked. Because that's where he works. Mr. Whitmore's voice took on an almost reverent tone. Lucas Reed, CEO of Reed Enterprises, one of the richest men in America. He owns this building and about 50 others across the country. Evelyn leaned forward, studying the building on the screen. She'd seen it before. Everyone in Chicago had. It was impossible to miss. A gleaming tower of steel and glass that dominated the skyline like a middle finger to poverty. Mr. Reed is particular, Mr. Whitmore continued carefully. He has very specific requirements for how his personal floors are maintained. Everything must be perfect, and I mean perfect. You miss a spot, you're fired. You move something on his desk, you're fired. You're late, you're fired. You breathe wrong, you're probably fired. Nervous laughter rippled through the room. Mr. Whitmore didn't laugh. I'm not joking.
In the past year, I've lost 14 employees to Mr. Reed's standards. He calls me personally to report infractions. So if you're assigned to the Reed floors, you better be ready to work harder than you've ever worked in your life. Questions? Evelyn raised her hand. How much does the Reed assignment pay? Mr. Whitmore smiled for the first time. $30 an hour, plus overtime, plus a completion bonus if you last 6 months without being fired. The room went silent. $30 an hour was life-changing money for people like them. How do we get that assignment? Evelyn asked. You don't get it. You survive long enough for me to trust you, and then maybe I'll put you on the Reed rotation. Mr. Whitmore's smile faded. But let me be clear. That job will eat you alive. Lucas Reed is a perfectionist with OCD and control issues that would make a military general look relaxed. He will make your life hell. He will find every flaw. He will— I'll take it, Evelyn interrupted. Everyone turned to stare at her. Mr. Whitmore raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? I'll take the Reed assignment. Whenever you're ready to trust me, I want it. Evelyn's voice was steady, confident. Inside, her heart was pounding, but she couldn't let that show. I need the money. I'll work harder than anyone. I won't complain. I won't quit. Mr. Whitmore studied her for a long moment. You got family problems, medical bills, debt? Evelyn nodded. Everyone who volunteers for Reed duty has something desperate driving them. It's the only reason anyone's willing to put up with him. All right, Miss Hart. Miss Hart, you start on the regular rotation tomorrow. Night shift, floors 10 through 20. You do good work, don't give me problems, show up on time every day for 2 weeks. Then we'll talk about Reed. Thank you, sir. After the orientation, Evelyn walked out into the October Chicago wind, feeling something she hadn't felt in months: hope. $30 an hour. If she could get that Reed job and keep her diner shifts, if she could work enough overtime, if she could just hold it together for a few months, she could save her mama. Whatever it takes, she thought again, as she headed for the bus stop. Whatever it takes. 13 days later, Evelyn lasted exactly 13 days before Mr. Whitmore called her into his office. You're good, he said without preamble. Fast, thorough, no complaints from any of the building managers. Vanessa was right about you. Evelyn stood in front of his desk, still in her cleaning uniform, smelling like industrial cleaner and exhaustion. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. Mr. Whitmore leaned back in his chair, which creaked under his weight. I'm short-staffed on the Reed floors. 3 people quit last week. One of them actually cried when she turned in her resignation, said she'd rather be unemployed than deal with his insanity for 1 more day. I won't quit, you said. You don't know that.
Yes, I do. Evelyn met his eyes directly. My mama has stage 4 cancer. Her surgery costs more money than I'll make in 3 years. I need this job, Mr. Whitmore. I won't quit. I won't mess up. I'll do whatever it takes. Mr. Whitmore sighed heavily. You're going to regret those words, but all right. Starting tonight, you're on Reed duty, floors 60 through 68. You work from midnight to 8 a.m. The floors have to be pristine before the first employees arrive at 7:30. What about my diner job? That's your problem to figure out. Reed is overnight. You want the money, you make it work. Evelyn did quick math in her head. Diner shift ended at 11 p.m. If she took the express bus, she could make it to the Reed building by midnight, work until 8 a.m., sleep until 2 p.m., back to the diner by 3 p.m. 4 hours of sleep. She'd survived on less during exam weeks at community college before she'd had to drop out. I can make it work, Evelyn said. Then congratulations, Miss Hart. Mr. Whitmore slid a thick binder across his desk. This is the Reed Manual. It contains every single requirement for cleaning his floors. Read it, memorize it, live it. Your first shift is tonight at midnight. Don't be late. At 11:47 p.m., Evelyn stood in front of the Reed building,
neck craned back, trying to see the top. It was even more intimidating up close. The glass panels reflected the city lights like a mirror, making the whole structure seem to glow with contained power. The lobby, visible through the windows, was all marble and modern art, and the kind of wealth Evelyn had only ever seen in movies. She took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and walked through the revolving door. "Cleaning crew?" the security guard at the desk asked without looking up. "Yes, sir. Evelyn Hart, first night on Reed floors." Now the guard looked up, and something like sympathy crossed his face. He was black, maybe in his 60s, with gray in his hair and kind eyes. "First night. Lord have mercy. You know what you're getting into, young lady. I read the manual. Reading it and living it are two different things." The guard, his name tag said William Foster, pulled out a tablet and had Evelyn sign in. "Mr. Reed is particular about everything, and I mean everything. Last girl who worked his floors got fired for leaving the vacuum cleaner cord coiled the wrong direction."
"You're joking." "I wish I was." William handed her a badge and a key card. "This gets you elevator access to floors 60 and above. Service elevator is around the corner. You'll be working alone up there. Mr. Reed doesn't like multiple people in his space." "Alone? All 9 floors?" "All 9 floors. You got 8 hours. Better get started." By 2:30 a.m., Evelyn understood why 3 people had quit last week. The Reed floors were immaculate to begin with. It was like cleaning a space that was already clean, searching for invisible dirt that might offend a man who apparently saw imperfection that normal humans couldn't perceive. But it wasn't just the cleaning that was exhausting, it was the pressure. Every surface Evelyn touched felt important. The conference table on the 63rd floor was probably worth more than her childhood home. The modern art on the walls looked like something from a museum. The carpet was so thick and perfect, she felt guilty stepping on it with her discount sneakers. And everywhere, there were signs of Lucas Reed's obsessive control. Books arranged by height and color, coffee mugs in the break room placed handle out, evenly spaced. Even the pens on the desks were aligned parallel to the desk edges. Evelyn found herself holding her breath as she cleaned, terrified of disturbing the perfect order of this perfect world. By the time she reached the 68th floor, Lucas Reed's personal executive suite, she was running behind schedule and exhausted to her bones. The executive suite was like something out of a movie, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan, a desk the size of her apartment's kitchen made from dark wood that probably cost more than her car. Real art on the walls, not prints, but actual paintings with texture and signatures. And that chair. The Poltrona Frau-style executive chair sat behind the massive desk like a throne. Italian leather, hand-stitched, the kind of craftsmanship that whispered obscene amounts of money. The buttery, soft leather gleamed under the ambient lighting, every curve designed for both power and comfort. It was the kind of chair that cost more than most people's cars, a statement piece that said its owner controlled empires. Evelyn knew she shouldn't. The manual explicitly said never to sit in client furniture, but her feet were screaming, her back was aching, and that chair looked so comfortable. "Just for a second," she told herself, "just to rest my legs while I catch my breath." She sank into the chair, and it was like sitting on a cloud. The leather was butter soft, the cushioning perfect, the height adjusted exactly right. Evelyn closed her eyes. Just 1 minute, then back to work. 3:15 a.m. She woke up to something poking her arm. Not a finger, a ruler. "Wake up." The voice was deep, cold, and very, very angry. Evelyn's eyes flew open, and there he was. He had to be the most gorgeous man she had ever set eyes on. The stranger stood over her, 6'3" of controlled fury in a three-piece suit that probably cost more than 3 months of her salary. His skin was deep brown, his hair cut close, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass. But it was his eyes that made Evelyn's blood run cold, dark brown, almost black, and absolutely merciless. Evelyn tried to scramble out of the chair, but her exhausted body didn't cooperate. She half fell, half stumbled, catching herself on the desk. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." "You fell asleep. In my chair. In my office." Each word was precisely articulated, like he was speaking to someone very stupid. "Do you have any idea how many health codes you just violated?" Her brain caught up. Wait, his office? This man was Lucas Reed? She had imagined him to be just a grumpy old man. Looks like she only got the former right. "I'm sorry, Mr. Reed. I was just—" "Get out." Lucas's voice didn't rise in volume, but the command in it made Evelyn flinch. "I'm calling Whitmore right now. You're fired. Security will escort you from the building." Panic seized Evelyn's chest. No, 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 no. She couldn't get fired. Not now. Not when Mama's surgery was scheduled for next week and she was already short on the payment plan installment. "Please, Mr. Reed," Evelyn's voice cracked. "Please don't fire me. I need this job. My mother is sick. She has cancer, and I need the money for her surgery. I'll work harder. I'll never sit down again. I'll—" "Everyone has a sob story," Lucas interrupted coldly. He walked around to his desk, giving Evelyn a wide berth, she noticed, and reached for his phone. "Yours doesn't interest me." Evelyn did something desperate, something stupid. She lunged forward, her fingers locking around Lucas Reed's cold, bare wrist. In that split second, the air in the 68th floor didn't just change, it ignited. What happened next didn't just destroy a $50 million device. It bound Evelyn Hart to a man who was supposed to be her boss, but was about to become her master. Hit subscribe right now. You do not want to see what Lucas does when he realizes what Evelyn really is.